When I was struggling, barely making ends meet, my mentor said to me, "Jim, the problem isn't your capacity. The problem is your willingness to push beyond comfort." That hit me right between the eyes. You see, becoming a monster, and I don't mean that in a negative way, is about unleashing what's already inside you. It's about saying, enough is enough to mediocrity, enough of living small, enough of making excuses. Here's what's fascinating. Every great achievement in human history came from someone who decided to stop being average. The Wright brothers didn't wake up one day and say, well, maybe we'll try this flying thing if we feel like it. They were monsters of dedication. They were obsessed. And that's what we need to talk about today, becoming productively obsessed with your growth. Let me share something powerful with you. The difference between being weak and being a monster isn't what you might think. It's not about your circumstances. It's not about your background. It's not even about your natural talents. It's about your decisions. You see, every day you make about 1,000 decisions. Most people make these decisions based on comfort. They make them based on what's easy. They make them based on what everyone else is doing. But let me tell you, that's the recipe for weakness. That's the formula for mediocrity. Instead, here's what monsters do. They make decisions based on their potential, not their comfort. They make decisions based on their goals, not their fears. They make decisions based on who they want to become, not who they've been. Now let's talk about something crucial, discipline. You know what's interesting about discipline? Most people see it as a punishment. They see it as something that restricts them. But here's the truth. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Let me give you a formula I learned years ago that changed everything for me. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. When you decide to become a monster, a person of unstoppable drive and determination, success starts chasing you. Here's what fascinates me. People will spend years watching television, but won't spend 30 minutes a day reading books that could transform their lives. They'll spend hours scrolling through social media, but won't take an hour to plan their goals. They'll spend decades at a job they hate, but won't spend 6 months building something they love. You want to know what makes someone weak? It's not their circumstances. It's their unwillingness to change them. The weak person says, this is just how things are. The monster says, this is how things are going to be. Let me tell you something profound. Everything in your life right now, your bank account, your relationships, your health, your achievements is a direct reflection of your standards. Not your wishes, not your hopes, your standards. You see, monsters have unreasonable standards. When most people are satisfied with making $50,000 a year, they're thinking about making $500,000. When most people are happy with reading one book a year, they're reading one book a week. When most people are content with being comfortable, they're obsessed with being extraordinary. Now, here's something that might shock you. Becoming a monster isn't about being aggressive or intimidating. It's about being relentless in your pursuit of growth. It's about being unstoppable in your journey toward excellence. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Years ago, I met a young man who was working as a janitor. Nothing wrong with being a janitor. Honest work is honest work. But this young man had dreams of becoming a business owner. Most people would say, that's nice, but be realistic. You know what he did? He worked his regular job during the day, and every night he studied business for 4 hours. Every single night, for 3 years. Today he owns a company that does 8 figures in revenue. Was he naturally gifted? No. Did he have connections? No. Did he have startup capital? No. What he had was the monster mindset. He refused to let his current circumstances dictate his future reality. Here's what's fascinating about transformation. It happens through small decisions made consistently over time. You don't become a monster overnight. You become a monster by making monster decisions day after day after day. Let me give you a formula for this transformation. First, you need to raise your standards. Most people have wishes. Monsters have standards. Most people hope things will get better. Monsters make things better. Second, you need to change your beliefs. Your beliefs are like the thermostat of your life. If you believe you can only achieve a certain level of success, that's exactly where you'll stop. Monsters understand that beliefs are choices, and they choose beliefs that serve their growth. Third, you need to upgrade your skills. In today's world, you're either growing or you're dying. There's no middle ground. Monsters are constantly learning, constantly improving, constantly pushing their boundaries. Fourth, you need to expand your network. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Monsters understand that proximity is power. They deliberately seek out relationships with people who challenge them to grow. Fifth, and this is crucial, you need to develop your character. You see, success without character is like a house built on sand. It won't last. Monsters build their success on the solid foundation of integrity, discipline, and responsibility. Now, let me tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Most people are living lives of quiet desperation. They wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. They're not weak because they can't be strong. They're weak because they've accepted weakness as their default state. But here's what's exciting. At any moment, you can decide to change. At any moment, you can say, enough is enough. At any moment, you can begin the transformation from weak to unstoppable. Let me share with you the daily routine of a monster. They don't start their day by checking social media. They start their day by checking their goals. They don't react to life, they respond to their vision. They don't wait for motivation, they create momentum through action. Here's a powerful truth. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is the pain you're willing to endure. Most people avoid pain. Monsters understand that pain is the price of growth. They don't just accept it, they embrace it. Let me give you a specific example. Most people will do just enough at their job not to get fired. Monsters will do so much that they become irreplaceable. Most people will exercise just enough to not be completely out of shape. Monsters will train until they become the standard others aspire to reach. You see, the transformation from weak to monster happens in the mind first. It's a mental shift before it's a physical reality. It's a decision before it's an achievement. It's a standard before it's a result. Now let me tell you something crucial about this transformation. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the fullest, most powerful version of yourself. It's about removing the limitations you've accepted and unleashing the potential you've suppressed. Here's what fascinates me. Every person in this room has the capacity to be extraordinary. Every single one of you has monster potential within you. The only question is, are you willing to do what it takes to unleash it? Let me share with you the price of transformation. First, you must be willing to be uncomfortable. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. Second, you must be willing to be misunderstood. When you start changing, people will question your sanity. Third, you must be willing to fail. Monsters understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. You know what's interesting? Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Monsters think long term. They're not looking for quick fixes or overnight success. They're building something sustainable, something powerful, something extraordinary. Let me give you a formula for daily growth. Every day you should do these 5 things: learn something new, strengthen your body, expand your network, face a fear, and add value to others. Do these 5 things consistently and watch how your life transforms. Here's what's fascinating about human potential. We typically use only a small fraction of our capabilities. Think about that. You're currently operating at perhaps 40% of what you're capable of. Imagine what your life would look like at 80%. That's what monsters do. They refuse to accept artificial limitations. Let me share something powerful with you about decision making. Every decision you make is either moving you toward monster status or keeping you in weakness. Every single one. When you decide to hit the snooze button, that's a decision. When you decide to skip your workout, that's a decision. When you decide to watch TV instead of reading, that's a decision. Now, here's what's interesting about decisions. They compound over time. Small decisions made consistently create massive results. The decision to read 10 pages a day might seem insignificant, but over a year, that's 3,650 pages. Over 5 years, that's 18,250 pages. That's the equivalent of reading 60 books. Let me tell you something about success that most people don't understand. Success leaves clues. If you want to become a monster in any area of life, find someone who's already achieved what you want and study their patterns. Study their decisions. Study their standards. Here's a powerful truth about transformation. The person you become is far more important than the things you get. Most people focus on the having more money, having better relationships, having better health. Monsters focus on the becoming more disciplined, becoming more skilled, becoming more valuable. Let me share with you the monster's approach to problems. When most people see a problem, they see an obstacle. When monsters see a problem, they see an opportunity. When most people face a challenge, they look for an escape. When monsters face a challenge, they look for growth. You know what's fascinating about human behavior? We tend to rise or fall to the level of our expectations. If you expect little from yourself, you'll get little. If you expect greatness from yourself, you'll find a way to achieve it. Monsters have unreasonable expectations, not of others, but of themselves. Let me give you a formula for handling setbacks. Most people let setbacks define them. Monsters let setbacks refine them. Most people use setbacks as an excuse to stop. Monsters use setbacks as a reason to grow stronger. Here's something crucial about the monster mindset. It's not about comparison with others. It's about competition with yourself. It's about being better today than you were yesterday. It's about setting standards that would make your past self proud and your future self grateful. Now let me tell you something about energy management. Most people manage their time. Monsters manage their energy. They understand that it's not about how many hours you put in, it's about how much intensity you bring to those hours. Let me share with you the monster's approach to goals. They don't just set goals, they create systems. They don't just have dreams, they have deadlines. They don't just hope for success, they plan for it, prepare for it, and persist until they achieve it. Here's what's fascinating about personal growth that's not linear. You don't get better in a straight line. You get better in waves, in cycles, and bursts of growth followed by periods of integration. Monsters understand this. They don't get discouraged during the plateaus because they know breakthroughs are coming. Let me give you a formula for dealing with fear. Most people let fear stop them. Monsters let fear fuel them. Most people see fear as a warning to retreat. Monsters see fear as a signal to advance. You know what's interesting about comfort zones? They're not really comfortable, they're just familiar. And what's familiar isn't always what's best for us. Monsters understand this. They're willing to be uncomfortable today for a better tomorrow. Let me share something powerful about discipline. Most people see discipline as a punishment. Monsters see discipline as freedom. Most people think discipline restricts them. Monsters know that discipline liberates them. Here's a crucial truth about transformation. It's available to anyone willing to pay the price. The price is paid in sweat, in sacrifice, in early mornings and late nights, and saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with doubt. When doubt creeps in, and it will, monsters don't try to eliminate it. They act in spite of it. They use doubt as a compass, pointing them toward what they need to do next. You know what's fascinating about success? It's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. Monsters don't wait for perfect conditions, they create favorable conditions. They don't wait for opportunities, they create opportunities. Let me share with you the monster's approach to time. They don't spend time, they invest it. They don't kill time, they make time work for them. They understand that time is the most precious resource we have, and they use it accordingly. Here's something powerful about personal standards. They're not about perfection, they're about progression. Monsters aren't perfect, they're committed. They're not flawless, they're focused. They're not superior, they're dedicated. Let me give you a formula for dealing with criticism. Most people let criticism stop them. Monsters let criticism strengthen them. Most people take criticism personally. Monsters take criticism professionally. You know what's interesting about transformation? It's not just about adding new habits, it's about eliminating old ones. Monsters are as committed to eliminating what doesn't serve them as they are to implementing what does. Let me share something crucial about energy. Your energy is contagious. When you decide to become a monster, you don't just transform yourself, you inspire others. Your commitment becomes contagious. Your standards become contagious. Your success becomes contagious. Here's what's fascinating about personal power. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. Monsters have tremendous personal power, not because they can control the world, but because they can control their response to the world. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with adversity. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this teaching me? They don't say, this is unfair. They say, this is preparation. You know what's interesting about success? It's not about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do consistently. Monsters aren't occasionally disciplined. They're consistently disciplined. They aren't occasionally focused. They're consistently focused. Let me share something powerful about personal transformation. It's not just about changing what you do. It's about changing who you are. Monsters understand that their actions flow from their identity. They don't just act like monsters. They become monsters. Here's a crucial truth about growth. The bigger the dream, the bigger the monster you need to become. Small dreams don't require much transformation. But if you want something extraordinary, you need to become someone extraordinary. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with procrastination. They don't wait for motivation, they create momentum. They don't wait for perfect conditions, they create productive conditions. They don't wait for less resistance, they build more strength. You know what's fascinating about human potential? The more you tap into it, the more you discover there is. Monsters understand this. They know that what they think is their limit is just another level. Let me share something crucial about success. It's not about having no limitations. It's about refusing to be defined by your limitations. Monsters have limitations like everyone else. The difference is they don't let their limitations determine their destiny. Here's what's powerful about the monster mindset. It's not about being fearless. It's about being courageous. Monsters feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is they feel the fear and take action anyway. Let me give you a formula for dealing with failure. Most people let failure defeat them. Monsters let failure develop them. Most people see failure as the end. Monsters see failure as feedback. You know what's interesting about transformation? It happens through decisions, not conditions. Monsters don't wait for the right conditions to start changing. They create the right conditions through their decisions. Let me share something powerful about personal standards. They're not about what you can do. They're about what you will do. Monsters don't base their standards on their current capabilities. They base their standards on their committed capabilities. Here's what's fascinating about success. It's not about having no problems. It's about having bigger problems. Monsters understand this. They know that success doesn't eliminate problems. It elevates them. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with obstacles. They don't see obstacles as barriers. They see them as challenges. They don't see challenges as burdens. They see them as opportunities for growth. You know what's interesting about personal power? It's not given to you, it's claimed by you. Monsters don't wait for permission to be powerful. They grant themselves permission through their actions. Let me share something crucial about transformation. It's not about changing everything at once. It's about changing the right things in the right order. Monsters understand that strategic transformation is more powerful than scattered change. You know what fascinates me? Most people spend more time planning their vacations than planning their lives. But monsters, they plan everything. They plan their mornings, their workouts, their learning, their growth. They understand that what gets planned gets done. Here's a powerful truth about becoming unstoppable. It's not about having no doubts. It's about having unshakable commitment. When doubts come, and they will come, monsters don't negotiate with them. They acknowledge them and keep moving forward. Let me give you a formula for dealing with difficult days. Most people use difficult days as an excuse to stop. Monsters use difficult days as an opportunity to prove their commitment. They understand that anyone can stay committed when it's easy. The real test comes when it's hard. You see, here's what's interesting about mental toughness. It's not something you're born with, it's something you build. You build it through daily decisions. You build it through consistent actions. You build it through relentless persistence. Let me share something profound about success. Success is never owned, it's rented. And the rent is due every day. Monsters understand this. They don't rest on yesterday's achievements. They wake up every morning ready to earn their success again. Here's what's fascinating about personal growth. The harder you work on yourself, the harder it becomes to settle for less. When you start living like a monster, mediocrity becomes painful. Average becomes uncomfortable. Ordinary becomes unacceptable. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with distractions. They don't try to eliminate distractions. They make their focus stronger than their distractions. They don't wish for fewer distractions. They develop greater concentration. You know what's interesting about discipline? It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Monsters understand this. They practice discipline in small things so they can count on it in big things. Let me share something powerful about decision making. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you're becoming. When you decide to wake up early, you're voting for discipline. When you decide to keep your word, you're voting for integrity. When you decide to push through pain, you're voting for strength. Here's what's fascinating about personal transformation. It's not just about what you gain. It's also about what you lose. You lose excuses. You lose limitations. You lose the need for approval. And in losing these things, you gain power. Let me give you a formula for dealing with negativity. Most people try to avoid nativity. Monsters build immunity to negativity. They understand that you can't always control what's around you, but you can always control what's within you. You see, here's what's interesting about becoming extraordinary. It's not about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency, extraordinary focus, and extraordinary intensity. Let me share something crucial about success. Success is not about speed. It's about direction and persistence. Monsters understand this. They're not trying to get there the fastest. They're committed to getting there no matter what. Here's what's fascinating about personal power. The more you develop it, the less you need to display it. Real monsters don't need to prove they're monsters. Their results speak for themselves. Let me give you the monster's formula for dealing with setbacks. They don't just bounce back, they bounce forward. They use setbacks as setup for comebacks. They understand that every setback is setting them up for an even greater comeback. You know what's interesting about commitment? Most people commit until things get hard. Monsters commit especially when things get hard. They understand that the hard times are where the real growth happens. Let me share something powerful about personal standards. Your standards are not what you say they are. They're what you accept they are. Monsters don't accept mediocrity in any form. They don't accept excuses from themselves or others. Here's what's fascinating about transformation. It's not just physical, it's not just mental, it's spiritual. It's about connecting with something bigger than yourself. Monsters understand this. They're not just building better bodies and minds, they're building better lives. Let me give you a formula for dealing with uncertainty. Most people let uncertainty paralyze them. Monsters let uncertainty energize them. They understand that uncertainty means opportunity. Opportunity means possibility. You see, here's what's interesting about success. Success is not just about what you achieve. It's about what you become in the process of achievement. Monsters understand this. They're as focused on their character as they are on their accomplishments. Let me share something crucial about personal growth. The world makes way for people who know where they're going. Monsters know where they're going. They have clarity of purpose, clarity of direction, clarity of action. And here's the final truth I want to share with you today. The decision to stop being weak and become a monster is available to you right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, right now. You see, everything we've talked about today, the discipline, the commitment, the standards, the mindset, it's all available to you the moment you decide. The moment you say, enough is enough. The moment you declare, this is who I am now. Remember this, the world doesn't give you what you want. The world gives you what you are. When you become a monster in your standards, in your actions, in your commitment, the world has no choice but to respond to who you become. The question isn't whether you can do it. The question is whether you will do it. The power is in your hands. The decision is yours to make. The time is now. Thank you for your attention today. Now go out there and become the monster you were meant to be.